As a finance professional in a disrupted business landscape, what does it take to be in demand? What does it take to attract great paying international
Good evening,
roles?
professional
If you're
colleagues.
an ICAN member, it'll just take one exam. That's all it takes to complete the globally recognized SEMA professional qualification and the internationally respected CGMA designation. As a SEMA member and a CGMA designation holder, employers will look at you as a finance professional, constantly acquiring new skills to add value to the business. That's why they'll be willing to pay premium to hire and retain you. If you have 5 years of relevant experience and are an ICAN member, you can directly sit for the final exam of the SEMA Professional Qualification, the Strategic Case Study exam. Start studying the SEMA Professional Qualification. Prepare to make an impact.
Good evening, professional colleagues, friends of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, our students, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to another episode of ICAN on Air, a very educative and insightful program where we enrich ourselves on topical issues that assist us and aid our deliverables as professionals. This evening, we have come with another topic and we'll be engaging another professional who will be doing justice even to our topic today from another professional body. Tonight, we'll be discussing the professionals and conflict resolution. I'm sure we all know how important conflict resolution is because it's an hallmark for the success of an organization. And doing justice to the topic this evening, we have with us Asiata Agboluaje, a partner, International Tax and Regulatory, Deloitte and Touche, Nigeria. She holds an LLB from the University of Ilorin with the National Nigerian Law School and an alumni of just 1 minute, please. An alumni pardon me. She is a legal and tax practitioner with over 15 years of experience and unlimited experience. She holds an LLB from University of Ilorin with Nigerian School of Law. Is an alumnus of University of Cambridge, where she obtained an LLM in corporate and commercial law. She started her career with Temple and Associates, one of the leading firm in Lagos. She has Oblique LLB, a prestigious law firm in United Kingdom under International Lawyers for Africa, a member of the Nigeria Bar Association and Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, and corporate law advisory on various aspects of cross-border investment from inception. She provides tax and regulatory services to several companies in Nigeria and across the shore of the world. Currently, she's notable for transactional experience, including leading team to provide tax dispute resolution and merit review of potential dispute resolution and advice, legal diagnostic review for banks in respect of ISO 805 certification, tax and regulatory restructuring exercise, due diligence services from companies with respect to proposed acquisition, liaising with regulatory authority and advisory on doing business in Nigeria, among others. Outside our professional career, our hobby include dancing, listening to music, cooking, and she's married and blessed with two children. I have Asiata, who I will be engaging this evening, talking to us on professionals and conflict resolution. Like I keep saying, without going far, I will quickly go on a very short break. But remember that this platform is open for you and I to promote your goods and services, and I can assure you that it will have the wide coverage that is expected of it. Let me quickly go on a very short break, and when I come back, I will be guesting our guest for today. Don't go anywhere. Please stay tuned. I'll be right back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Like I promised you, I'm in with our guest for today, Asiata Agboluaje, a partner, international tax and regulatory services with Deloitte and Touche. Madam, good evening and welcome on ICAN on Air this evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Kwande. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, great to have you on this evening, Tuesday evening. And I'll be starting because of want of time, because I know our viewers are out there to gain a lot from your word of experience. Let me start this way as we discuss on professional and conflict resolution. Conflict resolution has been identified as one of the unique skills that can sustain the going concern of an organization when the chiefs are down. The failure of many families, culture, system, organization, and even nations has been largely attributed to inability to manage and resolve We are blessed to have an erudite scholar like you on our program today, with a global viewer itching to benefit from your word of experience. So, Ashata, I'll be starting like this. What is conflict? And please, can you run our audience through some of the conflicts that are out there?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kwande. So, conflict, as we all know, is what we would say is where there are two position contravening positions or two contradicting situations. So it could come from, and I'll try as much as possible to relate this to our environment, the type of our work, and the profession that we are on. So conflict could come from transactions between two parties. It could come from purchases and sales. It could just be, it's just a position where parties are not aligned on certain things. The same way we would say a contract is an agreement, a meeting of the minds. It's the same way we say conflict is something that parties do not align with. And conflicts arise in various ways in the line of our profession. It could be between parties where people are buying and selling companies. It could be as a result of acquisition or a contract for supply of certain goods and services. It could be as a result of employer and employee. It could be as a result between employees themselves. So there's a various there's a wide uh, range of what we would call conflict as it affects professionals and our business. And I must say again that in businesses, or it is a fact of life that we need to deal with. Not all the
Mm.
time would everything be rosy and parties would say, oh, everything is hunky dory. There are times that conflict is necessary, it's part of life, and we need to deal with it.
That's a beautiful way to start the show today, telling us that conflict is something that we should appreciate because we need it when we are in the business or when we're with people because it's a part of life. I'll continue like this to tell you that our global audience will appreciate if you can elaborate more on the causes of conflict, especially as it relates to system, organization, and nation at large.
Okay. So, well, causes of conflict, we are humans. So the
Hmm.
nature of human being and the nature of our environment is the primary cause of conflict. We are
Hmm.
human. Each person has its own basis, beliefs, thinking capability, and not all the times will they be the same. The dynamism of human beings is what brings about issues of non-congruous of facts. In certain instances, you would see twins born
Hmm.
on the same day, same parents, same upbringing, but on certain issues they just wouldn't agree because they're individuals, and that's the way God has created us. And the power of choice that individuals as persons that we have is the primary reason. So if we're not bringing this down to our environment and systems and organizations. So I'll start. I mentioned some of them earlier. I'll start um, with organizations. So when you I tell people in my line of work, every agreement that people have entered, every contract ends largely symbolically with a handshake. That,
Hmm.
oh, we've done this business and we are okay with it. But anything can happen thereafter. It could just be one party's view of what has happened. The reality of business terrain. I said that I'm not viewing, maybe my entering into the business arrangement. This wasn't what I envisaged, and then someone wants to backtrack. Then there will be conflict. Can you backtrack based on this our agreement? Can you go this way? Can you go that way? That is on one part. Another part is, so we can talk about anything. Reality happens. Act of God. We had COVID the other time. So these are some of the things that have come up that have created conflict in systems and in governance too. There are beliefs of, oh, this is why we are we are in the election season. There are a lot of people that have certain beliefs and want to vote for a particular party because of certain things. You will see parents and children having divergent views on this. Ultimately, it boils down to the dynamism of the human existence, our society, and how things keep changing and how we react to it as individuals.
The dynamics plays a major role, and that's why we cannot have the same line of thought when things like this are happening. Let me once again use this opportunity to welcome all our viewers across the globe. I've seen them all the way from Akodi, the way from Ibadan. I've seen from Aba, Ebonyi, Lagos, here, across northwest, southeast. Thank you for being part of the show. I'm on live with Asiata Agboluaje, a partner with Deloitte. And we proceed like this before I come back to my audience because I know they will always prepare their question, even to give to my guests. Let me say that how could what could be described as the main conflict resolution strategy And please run us through steps that are required in conflict resolution.
Okay. So conflict resolution strategy first is to, as much as possible, look for ways to prevent conflicts. So when we are talking about contract between parties, there are all the terms clearly set out that if this happens, this is what will happen. That is one. Engaging the right professionals to support in that one is another. So that is to prevent conflict. Again, in the system, in governance, to engage clarity of thought, clarity of purpose by let's say the governing structures of the or around those ones. That's another one. And engaging both all parties, having an all inclusive arrangement. If it's in the workplace, having an inclusive or engagement with employees is a good one. If it's management, if it's board, it goes a long way. So the first level is to find a basis to prevent it. But as I said, conflict is part of life. It is even good in certain instances because in my language, there's a saying that all of you, all the people in a particular room should not sleep and put their head in one side. So conflict is good to check what is happening, to sense check what is happening, to curb certain excesses. So we cannot say we would we would try to prevent conflict all the time. But when there's conflict, what are the ways to settle it? There are different modalities. So there is a settlement of conflict by engagement. So there are instances where it's just perception that would, and discussion around perception that would curb or resolve the issue. There are ones that you may have to involve professionals, and you will be a question of the mediation. There are a lot of conciliatory moves. So there can be the mediation, there can be arbitration, there can be conciliation. There can be all these ones that does not involve going to court, but they may still involve some professionals. And in some of these instances, you may have to involve other professionals other than lawyers. So, for example, if it's a dispute around valuation of a company. So I bought a company that I thought the value was 1 million. But upon getting to the company, I realized some things were not adding up and should be actually be 300,000. I will need to engage the services of accountants, of estate valuers, of those people to actually provide support on the subject matter. So that's subject matter expertise. That may be required. And if all of this do not then align with the parties, you may now end up having a litigation or going to court on the matter. So what happens is you have an impartial arbiter. So with that, you have that in arbitration, you have that in the normal court system, and you have it in mediation and conciliation. You can have an impartial arbiter to actually support in determining the issue that, okay, you have said this is A, this is said this is B, both of you are not seeing eye to eye. And then there has to be someone that has looked at the entire issue holistically and given an opinion. So this impartial arbiter need not be a judge. In certain instances, depending on the type of conflict, you may actually call some therapists or some strategists. So let's say it's an issue with employee and employer. It may necessarily not be the court. It may be some engagements with the parties that will resolve it. It may be some coach that would engage the management and the staff. So the motion or the type of conflict resolution is largely driven by the type of conflict and what you should. But you should not run away from engaging professionals, engaging subject matter experts, and exploring active modes of resolving, not necessarily going to court. It's better to try all other methods. If all else, then can employ an impartial arbiter to take you through.
That is a deeper insight into the various things that are required for conflict resolution, starting from engaging yourself professional before you end up to litigation. Mrs. Agboluaje, as we get deeper in this discourse of today, can you give our global audience the nexus between the conflict management and conflict resolution? Are they the same or they are two different things?
So I would say they are slightly different. So
Okay.
conflict management and conflict resolution is end of the game. To say, oh, this is what we want. There's a conflict, we have to resolve it. Resolution could mean getting someone to decide this is decision, and both parties take the decision and move ahead and move. But management around this one is how to management entails is wider. So management entails strategizing to prevent instances of conflict, envisaging the type of conflicts that can come and how to deal with them, and in ensuring that conflicts do not get full blown. If it doesn't get, if it can be managed, you manage it. And if it now gets to the full basis of resolution, how do you ensure that, okay, how is it the resolution is favorable to at least both parties will accept the results, and how do you deal with that, the outcome of that? So those are I think in my view, those are the two considerations between management and resolution.
Yeah, before I proceed to the next question, let me tell our viewers that on our show this evening, I have with me Mrs. Asiata Agboluaje, a partner with Deloitte and Touche, and we've been doing justice to professional and conflict resolution. Let me state at this juncture that we can start trooping in our question. Our guest is ready, fully prepared from every angle to fire and resolve every resolution that you bring. Because when you bring the question, is conflict. That means possibly you are not agreeing. And she's here to provide the resolution so that you can go home smiling. I'm sure I'm right with that, Ashiata. Because when they bring the question, it's like they want clarity. And that's why we are here this evening. So we proceed this evening from your explanation of the differences between conflict resolution and management. It seems that conflict resolution may not necessarily require the service of a professional to be undertaken. Does that mean that conflict resolution as a profession does not require special certification?
So I said there are different types of conflict. So we are talking generally now. So if it's
Okay.
and I'll give an example. We have children at home, and two siblings are fighting. I don't need a professional to resolve that. So, or in that case, the parents would be the professional to say, "Oh,
Of course, because they have the
share
experience.
so, so in that case, but again, depending on the type of professional, I emphasized earlier that it takes knowledge, it takes knowledge of industry, knowledge of human behavior, amongst other things, to be able to assist in resolution of conflict. So I wouldn't say there is no need for professionals. It is very required. It is highly required. If you have conflict requiring arbitration, you need professionals to resolve to help you run through the arbitration process. The arbitrators will be professionals in their own respects, and the people that would assist would be professionals. There's conciliation, mediation, all those ones require professional, and there are certification courses for these arrangements. There are instances too. So let's say employees went on strike. And you have the management that are tied, their hands are tied, they don't know what to do. In such an instance, it may be a professional such as a life coach that would require that you need support, or someone as an HR specialist, or another form of negotiator that is licensed. So these are some of the things that come up. And even if you say, okay, you've resolved the conflict, what happens after the conflict to ensure that it doesn't reoccur? In that case, you may need other professionals to guide and manage this kind of situation. So these are the triggers, these are the points. How do we deal with this? So a lot of instances, we need professionals each step of the way. And as part of the profession, I mentioned subject matter expertise is critical in certain instances. So if you are dealing with land matter in a village, you need history of so maybe you bought a land and there's some issue around, oh, who owns it, or there's some history around the land. You need expertise of the people that know about it to be able to say these are the things that happened. In certain instances, we could even have what we call expert witnesses, where in cases that's part of conflict resolution, to say, okay, as an expert in this field, this is what I think of this issue, to be able to make an impartial conclusion on certain points. So I would say that depending on the type of arrangement or type of conflict resolution, there is need for professionalism, there is need for certification, and as we have them now. But if there are normal conflicts, general conflicts that may not need, by all means, we can go ahead without those.
Yeah, going by that submission, Mrs. Agboluaje, I want to ask that it's important and imperative, except the minor conflict that we have in our own, for professionals and the organization. It's certain that we need professional to resolve some of this. I just want to ask: are there special skill sets that is required to be a conflict resolution expert, just like you?
So I would say yes. So
Hmm.
the special skills that they are so depending again on the type of resolution expertise that we're talking about, the the considerations around negotiation skills that needs to be done. There are trainings on that goes to a long way. So negotiation skill is not just to prevent conflict; it's to get things done in a persuasive manner, amongst other things. So that is one. And then there is uh, the breadth of the procedure. So there are some conflict resolution mechanism that have procedures that needs to be followed. So that is another consideration. There is need for calmness. So if acting as an impartial arbiter, the person needs to be calm to be able to take in the point view or viewpoints of all the other parties, amongst other things. So for each of these level of requirements, there are stages that one can learn, like everything in life. So there can be the beginning stage that, oh, I'm trying to explore this kind of arrangement. But for us to know that, for you to get to the peak of it, is to get to mastery level and expertise. And for all of this, there are trainings that can be done for the negotiation, for engagement, for being supporting people in arbitration and conciliation and mediation. So there are a lot of skills that needs to be had for this, uh, and they are available in trainings.
Yeah, there are available trainings for one to become a conflict resolution expert, just like Asiata. Of course, we'll have to look at that. I have a question in front of me from a Fatbola Temitope, all the way from the Asian city of Ibadan. This evening is asking that you assist to dwell more on the importance of negotiation, persuasion, and reconciliation in a workplace conflict management.
Thank you, Mr. Fabola. So we cannot overemphasize importance of these 3 points rather: negotiation, persuasion, and reconciliation. So I mentioned earlier that when you want to get, you don't necessarily have to get to a dispute that is now full blown. People are not agreeing, we meet in court, or there's a major issue. Before you get to that point, as part of conflict management, you need to think about other points. So a key point is negotiation. Negotiation is that accepting, and both parties accepting that not all you cannot win in all places.
Hmm.
Life is give and take. Conflict resolution is also in this manner. What are you willing to give? What are you willing to take in return? And what are the limits? So what the negotiator tries to do is to explore these options and get the parties on the table to discuss. When you have 2 points and there's a conflict and we are not even getting ready to talk, the resolution is going to be very far off. But negotiation is an important tool to get parties. Okay, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want to achieve? What does the other party want to achieve? How do we come to a middle ground without hurting each other uh, too much? And how do we ensure that we get relevant value from both parties, and acknowledging that you may not get 100% of your requirements, as the case may be in this regard. So that is on one part. And then the persuasion, you need to be there. There are certain rules when we talk about persuading people. There's a common joke that when they talk about diplomacy, that is about telling someone to go and jump in the lagoon, and the person will say, "Oh, how do I go,
I'm,
how do
I'm
I go
ready
about
to
this?"
run there.
Yeah. So it's a question of having the will to tell the other people to persuade them to see from your own perspective. And that necessarily is not just about, oh, I'm a lawyer, I can talk, or I'm in a position of power, especially in the workplace. What you need to do in that case is to show data, show evidence, information to be able to convince the other party. This persuasion is also part of negotiation. If it's a question of, oh, there's need for pay rise, there's need for this, oh, this is understandable, but these are the numbers. How do we show, how do we move from one place to another? Maybe we move gradually and we get to where we want to get to achieve our end result at a particular time. So these are some of the persuasive skills to let people know. If you are, especially workplace conflict management, it's not necessarily hardcore, having a hard stance that will resolve the issue. The third point, there's the negotiation, there's persuasion, and reconciliation. Again,
Yeah.
reconciliation, yeah. So reconciliation, when you've negotiated, when you've persuaded that both parties should drop points, the question is what happens after this. So we've had this issue. It's come full circle. We've resolved, at least temporarily for now. How do we ensure that we do not have a recurrence? What are the promises that each party has owned up to? Are these documented? What are the KPIs to monitor that this does not happen again, or we have each party is owning up to the end of the bargain? And there should be maybe free or regular checks that, oh, we agreed this will be done every 3 months. Has it been done? This is it. So holding each other accountable goes a long way. I mentioned earlier that preventing conflict is the best sort of conflict management. Envisaging what will happen, and these are the three major ways that we can consider to explore to this issue with conflict management. Yeah.
Sincerely speaking, when I was on air this morning, I said lawyers are the only learned person that we have. Try to avoid conflict, but conflict is still an ingredient that we need to succeed in life. I tell my mom, I will not go into law. Just leave me with accounting. Let me be pressing the figure. Let me take the question from Ernest Onwama. He's asking that in the act of conflict resolution, at what moment will contract renegotiation be initiated, whether in a formal or an informal situation?
So thanks, Mr. Chukunnan. So what again, depending on the level that we are at. So I mentioned earlier that all contract arrangements, all agreements between parties starts with a handshake. So the first point for me, and again, going back to conflict prevention, is to engage appropriate parties. So if it's a formal arrangement, get people that are knowledgeable to get people that are knowledgeable to support you in reviewing the agreement, so that you would, oh, these are the things that we envisage and these are the things that we do not envisage. What if what we envisage happens? How do we deal with it? So all the most eventualities would have been taken care of. In the event that those eventualities are not taken care of, what happens? So one party would, and what happens with the negotiation? One party is generally not happy. It's either one party is not happy or both parties are not happy, and something has happened that they didn't envisage. That, oh, so I'll give an example for something that we all knew. It's about COVID. Nobody envisaged COVID. When you're looking at contracts in law, we have something that we call force majeure, which is that if something happens that makes it like practically impossible for me to do work, yes, I will not be held responsible for not completing it in due time. When we are saying these things, when you see that type of clause, there'll be a long list of things that you can envisage that would happen. But nobody ever envisaged this kind of pandemic. And then pandemic happens. When you're looking at it, contractually, nothing has happened. But we all know that practically there's the lockdown of countries. No, the supply chain is upside down. Things could not be done in any way. So the question is, how do we now go about it? So for this, when COVID, this was one of the major points that, oh, can I trigger force majeure? Can there trigger? There's another common law doctrine called frustration. Can this be triggered? Are the ingredients ripe? No. So it made a lot of people realize that, okay, we may have to reconsider and resign these engagements and put pandemic as a force majeure in bet. Now, any contract that you are saying that is including it, listen, would include that as part of it. Some were saying, okay, can we call it an act of God? Nobody. So it's that's one. So, but the other arrangements where a particular party is not happy, it's that party that will bring it forward. I'm not happy with the terms of this agreement as we have it. Can we change it? That can be in the beginning that, okay, these are my terms. That can be in the process of negotiation, because negotiation is just to say, parties, what do you want? Present your case and let us find a middle ground. So it's at the time of mediation or arrangements to engage, you can be a letter to say, oh, these are the terms that are not favorable. Let us reconsider it. And if the other party agrees, in the for example, in the case of the COVID, because it was apparent, it's easier. The issue comes where the other party says, no, we've signed this agreement, it's binding on us. That is where one party will want to be excused from the agreement, or then there will be issues around, do we want to go? And there may be a lot of things involved. Money, a huge amounts of money
Huge.
may be involved. Yes, certain instances.
I think that gives a clearer explanation to Ernest's question, and I believe other people have benefited even from it. I want to proceed, and Aishata, permit me on this question. It's been observed that most conflict resolution professionals are lawyers like you. Is the law qualification a prerequisite to becoming a conflict resolution expert?
Okay. So I would say, let me start from the end. The end is that when people talk, and traditionally, before, I would say maybe like 20 years ago, things started changing. But traditionally, when people talk about conflict, oh, we are going to court, I'll sue. So that is one area that makes lawyers be the prime, how do I call it now, the prime profession to be conflict resolution,
Okay.
because we are in Yoruba, when you the interpretation of lawyers in Yoruba is someone that is speaking on another person's behalf.
Hmm.
If you are going to argue someone's case, so if you are going to do that, you should be able to do conflict resolution. It is lawyers too that go to the bench, that are judges, and they are the ultimate impartial arbiter as we used to know it. So that one, and then as part of the training, you are taught to look at things from different perspectives. So the way one party sees this is not the way the other party sees it. And in doing some of our engagements, when we're talking about merit review, you look at, okay, if I were to do this, if I were to go to court today, will I win? What are the possible things that the other party can come at me? And if I say that commercially this may not be viable, let us have a consideration. So that is why that is from that end that a lot of other considerations to has to do with lawyers. And you'd see that conflicts don't Mr. Okwande, don't abuse lawyers, but there's no way that you talk about law and laws and contracts and all of this that you not involve lawyers. So the generation would involve some form of lawyering, and then the resolution too should be part of it. But that is what
Yep.
we have. We have seen other parties too that are involved in conflict resolution. I mentioned subject matter experts, have mentioned people that are HR specialists, employment specialists, and depending on the type of arrangement. When we were talking about the people at the resolution of conflicts of people that felt marginalized in certain parts of Nigeria, there are some conflict people, um,
Professionals.
yes, persons that helped in that one. So it's not only lawyers, but it's just that because of the way it comes about, and the arrangement about it, we see that lawyers, and again, it involves interpretation of law and contract. Lawyers are best suited to do that. But it's
Oh,
not
beautiful.
all.
One thing you will take away, Ashata, we are friends, lawyers and accountant. And it's taking me to this next question that before I come to Fagbola, it's been observed over the years that accounting profession and law profession, we both share a common ground. And that's why you and I were very good friends because we handle issues relating to business and organization management. Is there a common between these two professions on conflict resolution services?
Yes. So there are different arrangements. So I'll start with one. The law even recognizes it. So when you look at CAMA, when it's talking about certain professions, it's sort of groups, accountants and lawyers are together. So when it's talking about businesses that can be set up without a need for incorporation where they exceed 20 partners, these lawyers and accountants. There are certain criteria on who can be company secretary in certain instances. The link is around lawyers, accountants, amongst other things. So your point initially is spot on, very apt about reviewing business structures, supporting businesses, and the impact. It cannot be overemphasized. If you're looking at financial statements, lawyers will perform a part, accountants will perform a part in financial statements. So these are businesses. These are businesses that are in millions that control the environment. So on conflict management too, when we are talking about, I mentioned earlier that tax is one area where you would say there's accountants and lawyers have a good rapport in conflict management and dispute resolution in that regard. Tax is based on law and at the same time based on accounting entries and numbers. So that is one key area where both parties can support. If you see tax appeal tribunal, lawyers are welcome, accountants and consultants are welcome. If you were to go to an appeal or if you were going directly on relevant cases, lawyers would be there to support, but again, accountants may be supporting as expert witness as the case may be on certain issues concerning numbers. So that is one area. Another area is where we have issue around valuation, business valuation, mergers and acquisitions, and any resolution or any dispute or conflict that may emanate from such activities. You still the collaboration between lawyers and accountants coming to the fore, because it's the accountants that will do the valuation, business valuation. They can do appraisement amongst other things. It's the lawyer that will say, oh, based on this agreement, this is what we can do. We've seen instances where when you're looking at mergers and acquisition, there are certain terms that will be considered around when should be the closing date, which books should we look at, what will I look at in that regard. So lawyers will draft that, but they need accounting considerations to be able to put those things in play or understanding.
Sincerely speaking, we are twins, and we are gradually becoming inseparable. But an extension to this question, we have seen that the two professions, both the legal and the accounting profession, seems to be two inseparable thing. I want to ask, in your opinion, in what way can a synergy be consummate between the two professionals so that we can make the country much more better?
Okay. So it's recognizing each other's strengths and where we can collaborate more. Seeing each other as collaborative partners rather than
Competitors.
competitors, exactly. So there are instances where we realize, oh, this is my strength, so I may not be able to do this. When I'm interpreting law, I leave it to the lawyers. When it's a question of what has to do with numbers, we leave it to the accountant. And we have some people, they are lawyers and accountants because they want to have the best of both worlds. So those are we have a lot of people like that, because there are instances, there are some agreements that you're doing, they're asking questions around a bidder, you are making covenants on certain things that has to do with accounting. If you do not understand how this works, you will not be able to interpret these things properly. So and if you need to understand the numbers to be able to say, oh, can you make this? And again, know your limitation. If you know that what is this, ask the accountant beside you. Where does this happen? How does it impact what I'm advising my clients? Can they achieve this? Because it's making a promise on certain things, and I need to be able to know that this will happen. So it's about recognizing each other's strengths, collaborating, leveraging it, and not seeing each other as competitors, more or less.
Yeah, when you look at your strength, look at collaboration, then we can definitely make the country a better place. To all our viewers that are connected globally, I've been guesting Mrs. Asiata Agboluaje, who have been doing justice to our topic of discourse today on professional and conflict resolution. One thing I promise you, Asiata, is after this program today, I will enroll for my law school. With your support, I know I will not fail, so that I can be a balance. And you have my support too to quickly try ICAN so that you can be on the other side. Then we can balance things. So as we coast home today on our discourse, Mrs. Agboluaje, I want to ask that assuming we have some Nigerian political gladiators watching this program this evening, at your intro, you mentioned it that we are in the election season, and definitely we might have some of them. We do have them because as professional accountants, we have some of them in governance. Assuming we have them here today, what is your suggestion today on policy emanating and implementation that will encourage and empower professionals to perform better in conflict management and resolution?
So, well, I would say recognizing that it's depending. So we are talking about the formal conflict resolution now.
Yeah.
Recognizing that it's a niche that people may want to develop in, and focusing on that. There may be change in curriculum so that people would see that it's part of reality, it's part of life. We have a lot of people that have spent primary, secondary, university, and just lived in a cocoon without realizing that life is not just bread and butter. Things happen, life happens to people, and it may result in conflict. How do we manage that? So these are some of the things that policy can do. And again, clarity, clarity,
Mm.
clarity of purpose, clarity of engagement, information sharing, because a lot of conflict emanates because people are not really conversant with what the other party is thinking. The way I'm looking at your background now, I'm looking at blue. You are not saying it. You just know it may be. It might have changed. But I'll tell you, you are looking at my background and you're seeing gray. Both of us will never agree on what the background would be. But it's just to realize that, okay, it is when you turn and you see the clarity of purpose, the engagement, and all of that goes a long ways. And that policy arrangement could go for conflicts that may not be professional, conflicts that are maybe like for community engagement. So there should be a procedure to say, if it's this place, let us do it in this manner. Across borders is the standard manner. So as opposed to some feeling, oh, this was done here, this wasn't done here. So if there's a standardized approach that everyone knows that it has to be followed, it goes a long way in policy development.
Oh, goes a long way in policy development. I will still stand on the issue of politics before because it's germane. Like I do say on one of my show, I do tell them that politics, formulate policy, and it's the policy that drives both the public and the private thing. And I want to ask this before I come to Fagbola, that there is this general wind that is blowing in the air, and that is today's Nigerian politics is not positively growing and improving because real and genuine professional refuse to get involved. Do you share similar sentiment, or do you have a different view about this?
So I think being involved in politics is stems from interest.
Hmm.
So we've seen people that are contesting that are consummate professionals. We've seen people that are not professionals. We've seen people that are technocrats. We've seen people that are just businessmen. So it's an entire gamut. If you have an interest and you are willing to sacrifice, because it involves a lot of sacrifice, I
Hmm.
can tell you that for free. The way you and I are sitting here and saying, "Oh, we are going to vote on Saturday," and we are controlling your time. If you were involved in politics, there may be a lot of other dynamics. So the way you normally plan your time and this is what I want to do may not be that way. So it involves a lot of sacrifice. And if our people are willing and the person is interested, by all means, it should be. We have, and I go back again to say it's about interest. It's about willingness to make the sacrifices that needs to be made to be in this environment. And the more people we have in the political realm, the better for all of us. There can be better discourse, there can be better organization, and it's not necessarily professionals. I mentioned earlier that we go to school, do primary, secondary, university, not necessarily being taught about life. We may have people that are doing business that I know about life and know how to engage. We know people that are not graduates, but they can do better in resolution of conflict. They may be better orators than even people that went to school. So it's about knowing your strength and what you genuinely want to offer to the relevant people that you want to represent in politics.
Sincerely speaking, to get involved in politics, there must be interest and the willingness to sacrifice so that we can get the best of tips out of it. Let me
One,
quickly,
one, one more thing. Okay.
okay.
Yeah. So one more thing that I want to add on the back of that is that going into politics does not necessarily mean running for position. You can go to politics and be saying, okay, my role is just to be providing policy directives. So there are different ways to enter politics. Not necessarily that, oh, I want to president, I want to be governor. Not necessarily that. So again, it can be a good balance of, I'm still maintaining my professional background, but I can be able to provide this support in certain instances, depending on where you work again and how it may impact your work and conflicts in that.
That is great. Adding that a little to it. Let me quickly take Fatbola because this time is just running. I didn't know that we spend this much on this topic. Fatbola is asking that any best way to handle saboteurs in conflict management.
Openness.
Hmm.
If there are no hidden stuff, then saboteurs wouldn't thrive. So if this is, and if both parties are open, if both parties are willing, um, uh, if both parties are willing and to get on, and this is the open discussion, I'm not hiding anything behind. There are no cards and all of that. It goes a long way, because if that is the case, there is no room for another party to say, oh, this is what we can do, amongst other things. So I think that would go a long way. Provision of information, openness, and both parties willingness of both parties to actually engage and resolve the conflict.
That is fantastic with that one word, opponent. Before you go, Asiata, let me quickly take this because I know you are a senior management person. You see, there is boardroom politics in nearly all professions and among professionals. How should professional accountant and other professional approach this issue, especially when they are caught or find themselves in the web of boardroom politics, which may within the context of conflict that we are discussing?
So again, it's that's life. One, realizing that such things may happen is one. That realization is one area, and then to a large extent, if people know the stance, what you stand for, what as a professional, what your stance is, because as we say, integrity is our watchword. What you stand for, what you support, there may be minimal room to get involved. And if you need to, there are instances where you need to play. Know when to fight, know when to withdraw, know how to engage. Not all the time do you want to create a scene, or even if you see that, oh, this is not right, you can bait and wait for the right time to make the engagement. You always pace to say, okay, this is not the right time. Let us wait and have a further conversation, amongst other things.
It's been a very insightful time with our guest today, Asiata Agboluaje. But before you go, in just a minute, and that is my final question for today. Our institute, I know you are a friend. You are not FCA, but you are in our midst, friend of chartered accountant, not fellow like us. Our institute, the Institute of Chartered Accountant of Nigeria, is always open to ideas that will positively advance the growth of our members, the accounting profession, and the business environment. What would be your suggestion on identifying and filling the knowledge gap on issues related to professional and conflict resolution?
So I know that we as an FCA, I know that there are, I know that there are um, ongoing discussion and training that are being offered by ICAN. So there are trainings on this. So there may be a module on this to say, okay, how do we play in this one as accountant? Where could our services be required? How should we plan to address this? What are the areas that may come? So there might be a module for consideration as part of continuing education, or as the case may be. So again, so it may be a mandatory one to say maybe once a year all chartered accountants will go through it, or again supporting undergrads and going to university to say, okay, maybe a course or a guest lecturer goes or have a module, because now it's easy. We have virtual engagement that can be pre-recorded courses that can be shared to school as guest lecturers, like people like you or other knowledgeable people in the accounting industry can then let these people be aware while they're in school, and then when they come out, it gets easier to do that.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Asiata Agboluaje, partner international tax and regulatory with Deloitte and Touche. It's been a wonderful time sharing this evening with you, and we sincerely appreciate you for coming around to increase our want of knowledge on topic of discuss for today. We want to believe that when next we call as FCA, definitely you will make yourself available to share with us your want of experience. And I know that as FCA, you cannot sign. You are just our friend. And that's where we cut it a show today. Before I move to the end of it, let me quickly give a short announcement to all our viewers that are connected with us today. Do you know that we are already in another year? This is 2023, and your subscription plays a strategic role in making sure that the institute grow. For the associate member, 17,500 is just the value that you need to pay for the year 2023. Also, for the fellow, 32,500, and I'm sure you would have received in your mail the initiative of the governing council of our institute giving waivers to those that have been delisted. Just visit our website and see how you can tap from the web that the governing council have actually created. Also, the fellowship conferment of our great institute, the 21st of its kind, comes up Saturday, April 1st, 2023, and the Landmark Center, Victoria Island in Lagos. Like we all know, the portal is opened, and by 17th of March, we'll definitely bring down the portal so that we can have compilation of the new set of people that will be attaining the highest status of our great institute. That is the fellow that we can now change from ACA to FCA. For those that are still interested, or if your friend is not yet aware, tell them to visit the website. It is 140,000 for the physical participant, 130 for the virtual participant, and the process to follow are hosted on our website. And finally, the 2023 annual dinner and award for this year comes up May 6, 2023, and this will be happening at Monarch Event Center at Ikate in Lekki. For those that are interested, we encourage you all to be part of it. It's 20,000 for single, 30,000 for couple, and a corporate table for 300,000. You need to get involved in the activities of our institute so that we can together grow the institute. And that would definitely, just like our guest said today, avert conflict. He said, try as much as possible to avoid it, but notwithstanding, is part of life. It's been a very quality time sharing with all of you this evening across the globe. I remain your host, Olusegun Okwade, FCA. Until I come your way again on Thursday, please stay safe and continue to give your deliverable as a professional always. Bye for now.